What is going on, everyone? This is Adam and Craig with Grandstand Golf, and we are talking the Corrales Puntacana DFS Picks and Fade Show. We're coming off the 2020 US Open, and we have less than stacked field for Corrales. So, Craig, what are you thinking? What are your first thoughts for this tournament?
Well, I mean, first thoughts, it's a little bit harder to get excited about the Corrales Punta
Yeah,
Cana compared to the US Open.
a
Um,
little bit. Yeah,
but I also think I really like these kind of weeks because we've got all these guys who are, they're
yeah,
playing for their tour cards. Maybe, yes, they have tour cards right now, some of them. Other guys, if they win this week, they could get tour cards.
yeah,
But these are the guys where they need to try to do well in these tournaments to get into the FedEx Cup playoffs, to get into the
for
top
sure.
70. Like these are the times when they don't have the top, 30 guys in the world there that they have to compete against,
Totally.
that they really want to go and make their name.
And it's also when you look at the 2021 PGA Championship and you see, oh yeah, I remember the guy from Corrales or from the tournament earlier in 2020. And you're like, you can almost be early on that story for a lot of these guys.
Well, and that's totally the case. And I think one of the things that I love is that the guys who are the, heavy hitters in these fields are the ones who are your sleepers in the strong fields.
Yeah,
And so it
yeah,
really just
exactly.
gives you a much better understanding of the whole field and who has the potential to score, even if they also have the potential to blow up.
So that's a great point. Like, I would not take this week off for DFS. I would absolutely play it. I would almost like maybe get a little bit more into it because there's an advantage there. But quickly looking at the course, it's the only PGA event in the Dominican Republic. It's the Corrales Golf Course in Punta Cana. It's on the east coast of the DR, right along the sea there for quite a few of the holes. Par 72, 7,666 yards. So it's
It's
huge.
long.
It's long, but it's also wide open. So driving accuracy doesn't really come up. You got to get it down a good ways to have a shorter iron into the greens for the most part. The wind is the primary defense. I've been looking at it and I'll keep looking at it as we get closer to Wednesday, but that's something to keep an eye on.
So
It
looking
does
at it,
look
have you seen that there is going to, predicted that there's wind or no?
very similar to New York US Open, 15, 20 kilometers an hour. So nothing too
Just on the
significant.
verge though, where
Again,
if it picks up, an
yeah,
extra few miles an hour, then it becomes significant. And if it lays off a bit from there, then it's nothing.
yeah. Usually a little bit more calm in the AM, a little bit up in the
Okay.
PM, which I think is pretty standard. And then we have the past Palom grass, which is something we don't see on many golf courses throughout the year. It's a very kind of uh, resort tropical type
Similar to a
grass. Ball
Bermuda.
sits up a little bit. I'm not very sure the exact
Oh, I mean,
structure,
I would
but
just think it's
uh,
if it's a tropical, more thatchy grass. I'm
yeah,
just envisioning it being similar to Bermuda, but I don't really know.
the quotes I've heard is that it just there seems to be a little bit less break to everything. It seems to kind of favor the resort golfer, the vacationer, that type
Sounds
of
like my kind of
profile.
course.
Yeah. Uh, Previous winners, this is only PGA. It was a Corn Ferry web event, and then it was PGA. So for the PGA version, we've had Bryce Garnett in 2018 and Graham McDowell in 2019, both with a score of 18
And
under.
both of who are in the
So
field
that's
this week.
both are in the field. So with that, Craig, what are we looking at in their Grandstand golf model, and who's kind of
So,
yeah,
I mean, the main thing that we're looking at here is strokes gained off the tee, the most predictive stat. I don't actually put driving distance itself into the model,
right?
but as I was making my picks and coming up with a player pool, it's something that I will be looking at, just because of how long the course is, and I think it's mainly due to how much of an advantage it gives those longer hitters hitting into greens and
Hmm.
um, trying to get close to holes and make birdies. Strokes gained putting was more important than around the green. So, I think that's just a case of it's while it is long, it's not, we've seen some really difficult courses. It's not going to be that kind of course. It's going to be about going there and hitting greens and making putts
Yeah.
and so ultimately I think it's going to be a birdie race. And we've
Of a birdie
seen
fest for sure.
minus 18 win the last couple. I don't think there's any reason
Yeah.
to think it's not going to be something similar to that. So it's
Yeah.
it's not just about what we saw at the U.S. Open. It's very different from that. It's going to be who can go out there and make the most birdies while still not dropping shots.
And like every tournament, it's going to be a little bit of a hot putter, right? You can't really predict who has a hot putter week in, week out, but that's going to be who probably takes it
But
home.
you can predict distance a lot more,
You
and
can
that's why it
predict
becomes the
distance.
most predictive stat.
Yeah, for sure. So if we go into my picks, the first one I want to talk about is Sam Burns at 10,100 on DraftKings, 11,600 over on FanDuel. He's coming off a very strong performance at the Safeway Open. He just kind of seems to be moving up a little bit in my books. In a field like this, he kind of seems to be top of the class to me. A great combination of long hitter and strong putter. He was eighth in driving distance in 2020 and 30th in strokes gained putting in 2020. So very long off the tee, and he can kind of make those birdies when he gets those opportunities. And in our predictive model on our website, grandstandgolf.com, he was ranked sixth for
Yeah,
both, I think,
I'm
predictor
I'm
and
still
value.
just a
So
little bit upset because I had him in the Safeway and he looked like he was in position to take that down. But no, I totally agree with him as a pick. I think that he's exactly the type of golfer who this type of course is he's well suited for this type of course, and
yeah,
also he's of that caliber of golfer where he should be, let alone top tenning, he should be looking for wins at these type of tournaments.
yeah, you start to pick the low hanging fruit, and I think it's time for him to kind of do that. Next up, I got Pat Perez, 9,100 on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he is 10,900. I just feel like his game travels well and he thrives in these type of tournaments where it's kind of not a full field. It's a little bit of a birdie fest. His last two wins were actually on this type of grass, the past Palom. It was 2016 in Cancun
He's a
and
pass palm
27.
specialist.
I know it's past Palom Pat. It's a narrative that
I
I
didn't
think
even know
actually
existed.
it's got it, I feel like just with quick research in the last 24 hours, it's kind of building up. But hey, if it works for him, it works for him. It might just be that it's also more tropical locations, warmer weather, lesser fields, whatever it is. But it's 2017 win Kuala Lumpur. So again, both kind of those tropical island resorty type places. Um, and he had a couple of withdrawals, but he's looking better. And he had T9 at Safeway Open 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think he also could have been a bit better there. He was in position to be, higher into the top 10.
Yeah. So hopefully he's healthy. He's got that nice kind of recent form, and you can kind of just continue that on here in Dominican.
Yeah, I don't know whether he'll be making my player pool or not. He is a very high upside guy, but
Hmm.
maybe it's because I watched him a bit on the featured groups at the
In
Safeway
Safeway?
Open.
Yeah, yeah,
He's just such a volatile guy that you're just worried that he might lose it at any moment. But that's
yeah.
also, I mean, he does win tournaments, which, if you're playing big GPP tournaments, then you
Yeah.
want guys who might win. So,
Almost a little bit. I don't know why this came to me, but like Jonathan Vegas, where like he either goes out top five and wins, or like he's
oh yeah,
140th.
that's a
Like
miscut.
he's out of there.
Yeah.
Patrick Rodgers is my third pick at 8,000 on DraftKings, 9,300 on FanDuel. Much like Burns, another just long hitter and strong putter. He was 18th in driving distance in 2020, 11th in stroke gained putting. So you can get it out there and he can capitalize on those birdie chances. And he's coming in with a nice form. I mean, not great in terms of his performances, but he's making cuts and he's got five made cuts in a row. So you can build off that and hopefully kind of get to a top 10, a top five, maybe capitalize and get a win. And he's one thing I've been looking at a little bit. It doesn't eliminate people if they haven't played here, but he has played here before and he has finished well with a 22nd in 2018, where he started out 74, then he 65, 72, 69. So I feel like, again, it was new to the course, but he kind of improved a little bit throughout the week.
Yeah, I'll just double down on Patrick Rodgers. I would as I was coming up with my picks, you had already chosen him, but
Yeah.
he probably would have been in my picks here if you hadn't. So I think just at the price, I like him at
Yeah.
that price for
Yeah.
the other people around him. It seems like he's good value. And now I do. I'm going to jump into my picks here, but I do think there is good value around that
8,000.
8,000
Yeah.
DraftKings price. Um, but I think maybe Kyle Stanley was another guy I saw around there, but I didn't end up choosing. But
Hmm.
regardless, I'll jump into who I did choose here.
Yeah.
So starting off, Will Zalatoris, who went from my
Your
first
boy.
look sleeper last week and basically copy pasted over into the most expensive player in the field this week, and
Yeah.
I'll still take him. I know that it's you're paying the cost now, but I think that I still think he's the best golfer in this field, and so I will, it doesn't mean he is going to win this, but I would give him the largest probability of winning it of anyone there. I just think, just as a pure ball striker, I think he's better. The only person who maybe comes close is Corey Connors,
Hmm.
and we all know how volatile Corey Connors can be around the green.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, we've seen it on the Corn Ferry Tour. He's played 16 times, 10 top tens. He's number one ranked there by a fairly wide margin. His greens in regulation is absurd. His scoring average is absurd. He's he makes eagles, he makes birdies, he avoids bogeys. He does all the things you want from a golfer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we saw him, we saw some fireworks at the U.S. Open, and then we also saw him do a good job when conditions were tough, and he had to, get into the clubhouse at 1 over or whatever it was. But basically, I think he's for this caliber field. Yeah, to me,
You're going there.
I'm going there,
You're
and
paying up for him.
I don't know what ownership's going to look like, and that's my one question mark around him. But yeah,
Hmm.
I'm comfortable having him in a
So
solid portion
let's
of
just
my
say
lineups.
not exactly. Yeah. Let's just say I don't necessarily agree, and I'll get to that in a little bit here. But I like your second pick. So
And
tell me a little bit
we'll
about
discuss
Straka.
then. Next up,
Yeah.
Sepp Straka. This is a guy who I've had as a more of a lower lineup guy in a few tournaments since the restart.
Hmm.
He's a plus
Yeah.
ball striker both off the tee and approach, and a plus putter. That's strokes gained, and
Hmm.
so it's he's also just exactly the type of guy who I like in these type of tournaments.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a safe made cut. Maybe he might miss more cuts than some of these other
Right.
guys, but he is going to go out there and try to finish as high as he can, which
Yeah.
uh, you know for GPPs, that's what I want. I want a guy that might
Totally.
get high in the top 10 or potentially win. And so
Yeah.
he's got 4 top 20 since the restart. He's done well in these weaker field events. At Safeway, he was top 10 driving distance, and he's 41st in the entire PGA for 2020. So, I mean, it doesn't
Hmm.
seem like that's much, but if you think about how many guys aren't in this field, then um,
Yeah.
you realize that
For sure.
he's going to be in the upper echelon of distance out there,
Yeah.
and he's just got good results in these type of birdie race tournaments. So it might not be as weak. It might, the putts might not fall, all of that, but I
Hmm.
will end up with him in a few of my lineups because he could easily go out there and win this thing.
Yeah. I really liked him as well. Kind of same with Patrick Rodgers. I had him on my list, and then you already wrote him down. Gotta go. I gotta go somewhere else. But he'll definitely make a lineup of mine. If I'm making three, four lineups, he might even make two. Like I really like him this week
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. So, and then last is Will Gordon. I don't remember if I brought him up before the Safeway Open, but I definitely brought him up on a few of the showdown videos
Right.
for the Safeway. Um, he's at 7,600 on DraftKings, 8,400 on FanDuel. It just seems too cheap. He was number one in driving
Hmm.
distance and strokes gain off the tee at Safeway Open. Um, he he is one of these guys that can score, and so if he avoids making mistakes and getting sloppy, he should do
Yeah.
pretty well in this field. 2020 stats, he was 25th in birdies and 45th in eagles, and that's across the entire PGA.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of the people who are above him are not in this field.
For sure.
11 starts in 2020. He had 4 top 25, so he is getting up. He's not just making cuts; he's getting up into um, the higher portion of finishes. And just finally, you know how I love strokes gained tee to green and ball strikers generally. He was number fifth for 2020 in this field for strokes gained
Yeah.
tee to green. So um,
Right.
yeah, if putts fall, I think he could be right up there at the end of the tournament.
And a pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's quickly recap, Craig. If we flip over, so I had Sam Burns, Pat Perez, Patrick Rodgers, and actually my fade is going to be Will Zalatoris, who is your first pick. So the only thing I wanted to say with Will Zalatoris is it just feels like we're getting too excited too early. Yes, he's been dog tour. Yes, he almost had a couple hole-in-ones at the U.S. Open, and he played really well there. I just think he's hasn't played that many PGA Tour events. It's a ridiculous price to pay for him. So I'm fading him in DFS at that price. I think he's a super talented uh, young golfer, but I'm just fading him for this tournament at that price.
Yeah, and I mean, I hear it, but at that price, I'll pick him.
Yeah.
I understand that it's a high price for a guy that has very little PGA Tour, a very short PGA Tour resume. But I just
Mhm.
think that it bears out that he's the um, best ball striker in the field,
Yeah.
potentially with Corey Connors being the other one. And so if he gets
Yeah.
hot with a putter, I see him winning this tournament. So yeah, I'm
Fair.
gonna plant my flag there, and then my other pick. So he's at 10-9. My other picks, Sepp Straka at 9,300 and Will Gordon at 7,600.
Mhm.
And then I'm fading Graham McDowell at 7,800. And
Yeah.
I love McDowell. I just what I don't want people to look at his win from last year and plug him in because of that.
Yeah.
He has not played well since the restart. He has only a single made cut. He's got two results, but one of them was a no cut
Wow.
tournament, and then he's got a single made cut for a 35th place finish. So um,
Yeah.
I don't try to read too much into recent form because I think you can overreact. But
Hmm.
when I see something like that where it's clear that this person is not playing well, and then the other thing, if you
Yeah.
look at some of his miscuts, he's missing like at the bottom of the fields, or bottom 10 of the
Right.
fields, which you just don't,
Right.
something's wrong with his game at that point. And so
Yeah.
to me, it's
Yeah.
not an overreaction. It's just sort of the reality of where his game's at right now. And I'd love it if he proves me wrong, but there's
Yeah.
nothing to
I,
indicate he
I I
will.
have to agree with you on that one. Yeah, for sure. So like our picks, disagree with them. Any other questions or comments, leave them below in the comments and we will try to get to them in a future video or show. Thank you for watching our video. Please like and subscribe to our channel and click the bell to get notified for our upcoming videos. Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
guys.
Good luck.